welcome to the show, The Path of Me. I'm your host, Wendy Hutchinson, and my guest today is someone I'm so inspired by. She is a pediatric nurse. She has raised a son with a spinal cord injury, has a beautiful daughter named Sam, who's a senior in college, overcome breast cancer, and I think you had cancer twice. Jennifer overcame cancer, two-time cancer survivor. And let's welcome her to the show. Welcome, Jennifer Kayler. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you today. We should probably just go really back to the beginning. I know your kids are in their 20s now, but let's start at the beginning. When your son was 14 months old, there was an accident. So I'm going to let you share that story.
Okay, so my name's Jennifer, and my son Patrick and I were living a very simple life in Imperial Beach, California, down by the beach. We didn't have a car. We kind of walked everywhere, and it was a Sunday afternoon, and he and I were actually running some errands, but we were heading back to use a neighbor's phone to call my parents, who lived in Spain at the time. And I was gonna let him talk to Patrick. And anyway, on the way there, we, I was carrying him part of the time. I was letting him walk part of the time, and I set him down, and he was walking, and there was a car and a driver, and the female passenger in the car were arguing, and he put the car in reverse and backed up suddenly. And the bumper of the car clipped Patrick, knocked him down, pulled him under the car, and he was actually stuck under the car. There was someone walking by that helped lift the car, and I pulled Patrick out, and I knew instantly that I had lost him. He had no pulse. He wasn't breathing. He was turning blue. He had what was called degloving of the scalp, and so from here back was pulled back, and it was and I remember screaming, this like I could never make that sound again, because
like a primal scream.
It was literally like a primal scream. And there was a man that was lived across the street that saw the whole thing happen, and he had a refresher course in child and infant CPR the week before.
Unbelievable.
And he was supposed to be playing baseball that day and had injured his arm the night before, so he was at home icing his shoulder, and he rushed over, and I remember him standing behind me because I was just clutching Patrick and screaming.
Right.
And this is before I was a nurse, and he was behind me, and he was saying, "It's just a little cut. It's just a little cut. Let me look at him," like trying to convince me to let go of him.
Right.
And so we laid him on the ground. I remember what the ground looked like. I remember what he was wearing. I remember everything about it, like the smells and the sounds. It's like, and he started CPR, and Patrick's jaw had like locked shut, and he was able to get it open. He started CPR and resuscitation, and after a couple of rounds of it, Patrick started to breathe again. The ambulance showed up. A helicopter landed
wow,
from our house, or from the accident, and life flighted him to Rady Children's Hospital. And the man who gave him CPR actually gave me a ride to the hospital, and I remember sitting in the emergency room and not knowing if I was ever going to see him alive again. And I remember just praying and begging and praying to God, saying, please just give me like another chance. And then I remember someone came out with a clipboard. It was a man wearing like a shirt and a tie and a clipboard, and he said, "I want to talk to you. Can you come back here?" And he took me back into the emergency room back, and he wanted me to go in a quiet room. And I was like, "No, I'm not going in there. I don't want to go in there. I'm not going in there. Whatever you're going to tell me, I want you to tell me out there," because I felt like as soon as I walked through that door, they were going to tell me that he died. And I was like, I'm not going in there. We're not, I like refused to go in the room. And so he said, we stabilized him and we're taking him to surgery. Would you like to see him before we take him? And so I got to see him really briefly, and they took him to surgery. And then, he was, they showed me to the ICU, and when he came in, you know, I was just so grateful to see him alive and breathing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I still had on all my clothes that I had those same clothes on for a few days. I had blood on me, and I didn't have any money. I somehow remembered like the phone number of one of my dad's friends, and he showed up and was able to get a hold of my parents in Spain, and I didn't know at first that Patrick had a spinal cord injury. And at first they didn't think he had any neurological damage. And I remember them, like a lot of people kind of coming in, and I don't remember if it was the next day, or I don't remember because it kind of was all blurred together, but they came in and they did like a pinprick test, and he didn't respond to it. So they rushed him out to take an MRI. And I remember standing in the ICU room alone, and I just was standing there in this whole like weight of like, what is going to happen, and what is happening. And there was a nurse that came up, and she put her arm around me, and she said, we're gonna take care of you. And to this day, I am so grateful for that nurse, and so grateful for the whole team at Rady Children's, because they didn't just take care of him, they took care of me, and they took care of, like they supported both of us. And I had a lot of guilt, and I felt a lot of shame because I was standing right there, and nobody ever judged me or made me feel less than, or, you know, they just took care of me. And
that's awesome. That's amazing. Also, you were separated at the time, so your Patrick's father was not
so
at the time. So
we so I was married to Patrick's father, and he had an affair, and the girl was pregnant, and so obviously I was done. I'm out. And so after Patrick's injury, we decided to try to make things work again, and decided to try to, you know, do what's best for Patrick. And we have this child with an injury, like, let's work as a team and
together. Sure.
And so we got back together, and then a few months later I was pregnant with my daughter Samantha. And so then Samantha was born on a Tuesday, and he left on a Saturday, the Saturday before.
So you had had a baby who had a spinal cord injury.
Yep.
And a newborn.
Yep. And I remember I was like, I don't even know how to leave the house with both of them, because he has a spinal cord injury and she's a baby. And this Rotary group or something bought me a double stroller. And
wow, what a lifesaver. There's also no manual. It's kind of like when you get discharged from the hospital.
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's your list of meds.
Yeah.
Here's your follow-up doctors. Good luck. Like, there's no real, how do you even?
Well, I remember when they came and they told me, they said, okay, you're going to probably be leaving the hospital in a week. And I was like, no, we're not leaving the hospital yet because he's not better. And I naively thought, like, okay, we're going to stay here till he's walking and he's recovered. Right. And one of the things I am so grateful for is that back when Patrick's accident happened in 1995, there was no internet. There was no Google. I couldn't Google search a spinal cord injury and know, like, all the things that could go wrong. It was kind of like we were living in the moment. We were living in the day. I was like celebrating every little accomplishment that happened. And I wasn't worried about, all the things that can go wrong with the spinal cord injury. And I think that, like the internet and Google and all that is such a wonderful thing, but it can also scare the crap out of you because you see all the horrible things that can go wrong. And we got to just kind of, like, I like to think of it, we got to grow into this injury, and it has not been easy. And there's been a lot of challenges. And to this day, there's days that I have a lot of guilt. And I still feel, sad that it happened. But if you talk to Patrick and you ask Patrick how he feels, he doesn't feel sorry for himself. He thinks that it's brought so many wonderful people into his lives that he wouldn't change a thing. If you ask him, he wouldn't change it. And that's
it's incredible.
Yeah.
What, and I hope to have him on the show because his journey has certainly been inspiring.
Yeah.
That's a whole show in itself, what he's accomplished in his life, despite the disability, and which isn't a disability to him. It's just how he lives his life. He doesn't do sports. He, and all this. He's testified before Congress. He's done all this motivational speaking. He's gone to USC. He's done a lot, and your daughter has been a great, amazing part of the family as well. She's a senior in college. But let's dial it back to where you got them both home. You started to establish the new normal. But now you have these kids, and you've also got to support yourself somehow.
Yeah.
It must have been super challenging being a single mom with a disabled kid. It's not like you can just send him off to preschool. There's special care involved. So how did you manage all that?
I look back on it, and I don't know how we managed it sometimes because we did not have very much money at all. And I remember my kids like to tell this story, and they actually tell it with like pride in me. But it was like sort of a low point. We didn't have any food. We had like a box of macaroni and cheese, and we didn't have any food. And I ran to 7-Eleven and I grabbed a bunch of creamers, and I made macaroni and cheese with creamers from 7-Eleven. And my kids thought I was like a genius at the time.
That is amazing.
And we struggled. We struggled financially. It was really hard. Their dad just completely dropped out of the picture, gave us zero support, and it was hard. And we didn't always have a stable place to live. Earlier on.
Were you able to get like public assistance? Were you able to help you, or were you able to work? Like how did this work out?
So I worked part-time, and then Patrick did get some like Social Security. Mm-hmm. And then when the kids were in second grade and kindergarten, my parents retired in San Diego and offered to let us move in with them. And so we did. And, Samantha and I shared a room for a little bit, and then Patrick and Samantha shared a room for a little bit, and we just all kind of made it work. And my mom and dad, they do anything for me, and they do anything for my kids. And I don't know where we'd be now without them. I still worked part-time when we lived with them, but it allowed me to go to school. And
yes, did you start school right away? Did you know that you wanted to become a nurse? You're a pediatric nurse, so how did it unfold?
What happened was that there was one nurse in particular, and her name is Aurea Del Rosario. She's getting ready to retire after 42 years. And so she's still there. So she was one of my angels that was Patrick's primary care. And I've always kind of held her in my heart and remembered her. And when I was in nursing school, so she kind of, planted that seed in my head of what a difference a nurse can make.
Yeah.
And
In
I
the
remember,
lives of people who are taking care.
yeah, and so there was Araya and Kathy, Myram, and so many others, and Dr. Peterson, he's still there too.
Oh my gosh.
They're all still there. So, but in the back of my head, I was like, I want to do that. I want to be that person for another family, you know, non-judgmental, and just, you know, try to help them recover and be as successful as possible. You know, they set us up for success when we left the hospital.
Yeah.
And that, to, you know, it kind of always stuck in my head. So when I went back to school, I decided to try to go for nursing and become a nurse. And so I started off in the community college and took all my prerequisites, and then I transferred into a nursing school. And I wasn't sure that I wanted to do pediatrics. I thought maybe I wanted to do rehab nursing with brain and spinal cord injuries and traumatic brain injuries. But then when I did my rotation at Rady Children's, I was like, oh yeah, no, I want to be here.
This is it.
Kids, I want to be, this is where I want to be. And so it really was a dream come true. And then to get the job at Rady's was also a dream come true. And I love the teamwork to this day. Like, that is my absolute favorite thing, is that everyone there is such like great teamwork, and we all support each other, and we all are there for the right reasons, I think.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I know that there was a lot of therapy involved, rehabilitation therapy for Patrick, and that cost quite a bit. You became really adept at fundraising and connecting with organizations. How did you kind of navigate that whole process? And
Okay.
so this is a two-part question.
Okay.
How did you also give Sam the attention she deserved? Because you have someone with a spinal cord injury, it's very involved. And so you have this other beautiful child. You balance that and navigate that as well. So a two-part question.
Okay, so the fundraising part came about when Patrick was 10 years old. And it's a little bit of a long story, so I'll try to make it brief. But we, on Christmas Eve, went to see Santa at Fashion Valley Mall. And we're sitting there, and Santa asked my daughter, who was 7 at the time, what do you want for Christmas? And she said, can you make my brother walk again? And Patrick and I both were like, you know, because like, and so Santa was amazing. And he said, I'll see what I can do. And then we left Santa, and we're walking through Fashion Valley Mall, and we passed these 2 guys in wheelchairs, and we all just kind of like waved and said hi and kept going. And then we were almost to the car, and they turned around, and they had caught up with us, and they said, hey, we want to tell you about this organization we have that takes people fishing who are in wheelchairs. And oh, by the way, we go to this place called Project Walk. And I'd never heard of Project Walk. And so I went home and I researched it, and it's an exercise-based rehabilitation facility. Now, Project Walk isn't around anymore, but there's a bunch of facilities similar to it. So it's all exercise-based rehab. And Patrick had been involved in physical therapy, occupational therapy, and pool therapy, but you know, it's like an hour a week, possibly. And so if you think about it, like if you took anyone and put them in a chair and only got them out of a chair 1 hour a week. Like,
yeah, it's not as effective as if you're doing something daily or at least 2 times a week, right? Right.
So we looked up Project Walk, and it was very expensive. And a friend of my mom's, Maria Arroyo, happened to be over at the house, and my mom was like, oh, tell her about those cute guys that you met at the mall that were in the wheelchairs, because my mom thought they were really cute. And they were. But so I told her about it, and then she called me like a day later, and she says, why don't you do fundraising? And Patrick was 10 at the time, and to me, the thought of fundraising had never crossed my mind, because he was healthy, he was well.
Yeah, right.
All of our needs were being met. And so she said that, and I was like, oh, okay. And so so Maria and my mom and I met at Applebee's, and we talked about different names, and we came up with the name Help Patrick Walk. And we teamed up with an organization that lets you, it's called Help Hope Live, and you can have an account with them and accept tax deductible donations in Patrick's name. And so we started fundraising, and at first we started doing yard sales, and I mean like mega yard sales. And we pass out flyers at Patrick's elementary school. And our neighborhood, we live in Scripps Ranch, this north of San Diego. The Scripps Ranch neighborhood like came together in such a massive way.
Beautiful.
And we'd wake up in the morning and there'd be like a whole living room set on our yard that had capped off. And we'd have these yard sales. And so that's what we did at first. Then we did a bowling tournament, and we did some several poker tournaments, and we just
I went to a couple of those.
Yes.
So Patrick is a classmate of my younger son, Kai. That's how I met Jennifer. So, super cool. So all that fundraising kind of helped him. I know that was very time consuming. So let's shift focus a little bit and talk about how you were able to kind of really nurture Sam too at the same time, and your job at school. And they're both in elementary school. They have projects and activities and Boy Scouts and whatever else, dance or whatever Sam was involved in.
Yeah.
How did you juggle all of that and nurture her spirit? Because she sure has turned out to be a beautiful young woman.
So it is, it's very hard. And I'd love to say that I did a great job of nurturing both of them equally. But the fact of the matter is that Patrick took more time and more energy. And, you know, one of the things that happened when we were able to move in with my parents is, you know, I would take Patrick to therapy, and my mom would help with Samantha and help get Samantha to dance. Dance was a mile away and therapy was an hour away. And so for my parents, it was easier to do that. And one of the things that I noticed is when Patrick went away to college, Samantha and my relationship really, I realized how much maybe she had been neglected. I don't know if neglected is the right word, but I just wish that
you had more time. It was circumstantial, really. I mean, it was circumstantial.
Well, and I just want her to know that, you know, you know, it's hard. It's hard. And siblings of children with disabilities have a hard time, and they are, you know, there's a lot of attention that's given to the child with a disability. I remember her as a child, you know, there's people and they see Patrick in a wheelchair and he's cute, and, you know, there's like, here's a free t-shirt, here's a, you know, yeah, here's like, we go to a baseball game and here's a ball that's signed by so-and-so.
And the sibling is there not getting that kind of attention.
Like, what about me? Yeah. In the same breath, though, she was Patrick's biggest cheerleader, and she was so supportive of him and so adaptable to all of these situations. And I'm just really proud of the person that she's become. She's, you know, she's funny. She's one of the funniest people I have ever met. She's so quick-witted. I'd love for her to be like a writer on Saturday Night Live or something. She cracks me up, and she's funny, and she's such a hard worker, and she's working 2 jobs right now. She's working as a housekeeper at a hotel and as a lifeguard on campus to help
pay for tuition
and pay for school, and we're helping her out too. But she's just really stepped up to the plate and is you know, amazing.
Well, you know, Jennifer, you've been a phenomenal mom, and all we can do as moms is show up to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy in retrospect to beat ourselves up for mistakes we made, but the moment, sometimes we're just trying to get through the moment.
Yeah.
Day, the crisis, the struggle.
Uh-huh.
Human. I mean, I think people forget, and I think we forget that we are actually human. We
Right.
have emotions and feelings and things we're going through that we're kind of putting aside to deal with and raise our children to the best of our abilities. And I think we need to be a little kinder to ourselves and acknowledge that we have, through unconditional love, because we do love our children so much, not to the best of our ability. We need to acknowledge ourselves and not beat ourselves up, because I feel like there's a true divine unfolding, and everything ends up aligning and expressing and creating people that our children are meant to be.
Right.
So don't be so hard on yourself, because I think you're a phenomenal mom. And we also need to mention that through all of this, you also got cancer.
Yeah.
Twice.
Right.
It's just like, how, I think the first time you had 20 rounds of
radiation. Yeah.
Radiation.
So I had just started working at Children's. I'd been there almost a year, and it was the first time I'd had good health care in my life. And I was so excited. I got to pick up my own doctor and everything. And I remember going to the doctor's appointment. She's like, let's get a mammogram and let's do this. And we did like the whole,
blood panel and everything.
Right. And so she said, don't worry if they call you for an ultrasound. They do that all the time. So my son was at the time graduating from high school, and I kind of put it off for a week or two, and then I went in and they zeroed in on a spot under my arm right away, and then shortly thereafter the radiologist came in, and then things just started happening really, really fast, and I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. They found it on a mammogram. It was under my armpit, stage 2. I did 20 rounds of radiation, and then, first, let me back up. First, they did a little wait and see, because sometimes with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, it can be a little slower growing. So first they did a wait and see, which was really hard, because I wanted to get rid of it right away.
Right, and I think there's probably fear, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you're like, holy shit, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for my family? I can't check out right now. I have a lot. I can't do it,
Yeah. So it was actually a year of wait and see. And then it started to grow and my numbers started to change. So then they had me do the 20 rounds of radiation. And then during that time, so it kind of all ties in, but during that time I had a lot of free time. And I didn't really get sick from the radiation or anything. So I was swimming a lot and exercising a lot and spending a lot of time with friends, because I had all this free time. I had 8 weeks off of work to do this. And someone messaged me on a dating app during this time when I was off work doing radiation. And at the time I had this mentality of life is too short, take chances. And so I took a chance and went on a date with my now husband, Derek Head. And he was just amazing. I say now, like, I don't know how my kids and I ever survived all these years without him, because he just fits right into our family, and it's like he's always been here. And he's also one of the funniest people I know.
I know. So you guys just celebrated what anniversary? How long is it? 2 years?
3 years.
3 years. Gosh, time goes quick.
It does.
Wow. So during that time, you ultimately beat that.
Yep. So that one, they said they couldn't completely get rid of. They just shrunk it. And so when they do it, they can't necessarily find it, but they said they wouldn't ever be able to get completely rid of it. So I still go every 3 months and get blood work and everything done. But then my husband and I got married in February of 2015. And then I was laying in bed around the 1st of June, and I felt a lump. I was just laying down. You couldn't feel it if I was standing up. I was just kind of scratching under my rib cage, and I was like, oh, I feel something. And I made an appointment with my doctor, and they thought it was a cyst, but they wanted to double check, and it ended up being stage 2 breast cancer. And I was diagnosed on my daughter's graduation day. And so I was going to try to keep it from her and not tell her till after graduation, because I just wanted to celebrate her and celebrate the day. And, and she knew, she could tell by the look on my face. And, and I remember sitting at the graduation and being like, is this like what else, what other milestones am I going to be at? Because I don't know. This is now the second time around, like what's going to happen. And so anyway, things happened really fast with that. It was an aggressive form of cancer, and it had already spread to my chest. And so I started chemo like almost immediately. I was off work for another 14 months. And my daughter went away to college. She went by herself.
I know, I can't believe she just moved herself to college.
She moved herself to college, and
she's amazing.
She took like a suitcase on the plane, and that was it. And I felt terrible that she had to do that by herself, because I know there was all those other kids with their parents, and everyone's helping them, and but she's like amazing. She's so strong, and so
she is so amazing, and she is that way because of everything she was.
Well, and
being part of this family.
Yeah, they were both like really supportive. They were so supportive. During one of the chemos, they almost got kicked out. They were being loud, and they were playing Cards for Humanity, and
So Patrick was at USC, and Sam went to Purdue. At Purdue, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you, Jennifer, what is it that helps you just get up and keep fighting?
To what?
To keep fighting, to keep facing these challenges. You have been amazing in the face of every obstacle that's come your way, from struggling with the injury with Patrick, putting yourself through school, struggling financially with two young children, being a single mom, the cancer, and still, working with Patrick's therapies, getting Sam's activities, being present for those, working at, how did you, what was it that helped you to get through all of this?
So I think when you think of all of the things together, it's like overwhelming. But it was like one day at a time, and it really truly was. And I was so thankful that Patrick survived. I almost lost him. I did lose him, and someone helped bring him back. And so when I think about that, I am just beyond grateful that he survived, right? So spinal cord injury sucks, and it's not fun, but he's alive and he's happy. And then Samantha one time, she said, well, if Patrick hadn't been injured, maybe I wouldn't have been born, because his dad and I wouldn't have never gotten back together.
Right.
And then I was like, oh my God. And so then Patrick was like, right, well, if that's what I had to do to get you born, then, and so then it's just kind of like, for me, I try to find things that, I am grateful for. I'm not saying I am like happy and positive all the time, because there's definitely low days and low times. But it's one day at a time, and you don't have any other choice. Like if something happens, you have to deal with it, and you have to, and one of the other things is I tried to, with Patrick's injury and Samantha and single parent and all of that, I tried to find like the humor in it all, and sometimes the absolute absurdity of things that were going on. I tried to find the humor in it somehow to try to teach my kids to deal with situations.
Yeah. Also, I think what's pretty incredible is you led a very active life with them. I mean, Patrick was in all kinds of adaptive sports. He was doing adaptive surfing with Surf Dog Ricochet. He was traveling. He went and testified in front of Congress for the mandatory use of backup cameras, replacement in vehicles.
Right.
It did pass, right? It's mandatory.
It passed. He helped pass that law.
This is pretty incredible.
And
he walked across the stage at graduation.
He did.
Powerful and emotional. And then you have Sam, who's actually traveled abroad on her own. I mean, you've raised some phenomenal kids, all while facing your own adversity with your health challenges. And I know recently you shared with me before we got on a story that really gave you some perspective. You were going for a promotion, and it was some perspective.
Yeah, so last, several months ago, I was, I'd been working really hard for a promotion at work, and I didn't get it, and I was devastated. And I felt like I had let my family down. I felt like I wasn't a good nurse. I felt ashamed. I felt embarrassed. I felt all these emotions of like, why was I not enough for that? And, I think back now, and I think, I know I got way too upset over it, way too upset. And I'm like, why did I do that? Why was I so hurt and sad and angry? Why? And I think that I lost perspective on why I became a nurse. And the reason I became a nurse is because I love my patients, and I love my patients' families, and I want to be the best nurse I possibly can. And whether I got the promotion or not isn't going to take away from that. And so a few weeks ago, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, I made the decision I wasn't going to go for it again this year. I want to be present, and I want to be the best nurse that I can, and I don't need the promotion in order to do that. And so I think just and I don't know why I put so much weight in that title. I don't know. And I feel
go through that process to get to this place of presence and understanding of what's really important. It's not the title, it's how you're showing up every day for the community you're serving at the hospital.
It took me months. It took me months, and I thought about it every day, literally every day. And I thought about, what I should do, how I should handle it, and I just, I think what I realized is, more money isn't going to bring me more happiness.
Exactly.
It's not going to bring me more job satisfaction. Not saying that other people that have moved up and are doing more things, that's what's right for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, living simply, and we have one car, we share a car, which is, and I live in a little apartment at 600 square feet, but I love my little apartment, and I'm completely happy here and in this place and living a little simpler life. My husband's a pilot, so I get some flight benefits.
Yay! Come see me. Come visit me.
Still travel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the one thing. That would be the one thing that I would want more money for, is to be able to travel. And and I'm gonna travel. I'm gonna spend more of my time taking care of myself. I had a lot of responsibilities over the last 20-something years.
Yes.
And I'm gonna take more time for myself.
Good.
Live simpler, and then hopefully travel inexpensively.
I love that. Well, at least your flights are taken care of. That's a huge part,
Yeah,
a huge
exactly.
benefit.
So,
gosh, Jennifer, you are such an inspiration to me.
Thank you. You are to me too.
Well, you're so funny. When I invited you on the show, you're like, I haven't done anything. I'm like, you have. Should we go down the list? Because it's been pretty incredible what you have accomplished in your life, and things are only going to continue to expand. And I kind of just see your life in bloom. Like, now this is your time. You've really invested your life in creating success and foundations for your children, and now you're able to really step up and create a life that by your design, for you. So I'm excited to see where you end up, and I'm so blessed to call you a friend.
Thank you. I'm blessed to call you a friend, and I love that you came out for our wedding. That was
my God, that was such a great time. I'm so glad I could say I was there and a part of it. So do you have any last, while we wrap this up, do you have any final words of wisdom to share with our audience? You've certainly had a tremendous amount of life experience, and the fact that you are here still standing with such a great attitude and a great, positive outlook is really a testament to who you are.
So the only other thing that I think I wanted to talk about is, because I deal with pediatrics, and I have a lot of teenage patients that I take care of, there is a lot of pressure with social media, and with to me, I always like to say, I'm just going to put on Facebook the good things. I'm not going to put on Facebook, I didn't get the job. I'm not going to put on Facebook, I'm mad at my husband. You're not going to put you're not going to put the bad stuff on there. You're only going to put the good stuff. You're only going to post the pictures of your trips. You're not going to post the pictures of, you know what I'm saying? And so there's a lot of kids out there that are dealing with it's just so I love social media. I love being able to see pictures and have memories from social media, so I'm not bashing it at all. Right. I just want everyone to realize that it's not the whole picture, and nobody's life is perfect, and nobody's not struggling with something. And I just I just really want kids especially to know that that there's always more to the story. Everybody has their struggles, and to make sure to reach out if you need help, reach out and get help. That's my last closing thought. And I did also want to thank Ricochet, that surf dog. This is kind of
we're gonna put some pictures of surf dog Ricochet,
because she totally changed
Patrick's life. I can't wait to share some of that, some of those images of the surfing images that you we'll include them in the video. here. Well, Jennifer, thank you. It's been such a pleasure talking to you today and seeing your beautiful face.
Thank you. You too.
I love you. And to all of you who tuned in today, thank you so much for spending this hour with us. I hope you will subscribe, like, and share to my YouTube channel, Wendy Hutchinson. And this is the show, The Path of Me. I'm an intuitive life coach and Marconics energy practitioner. So please check out my website at the end. And to all of you, I hope you're kind to yourself, and I hope you have a beautiful day.